let's move on to Coach of the Year. And you got a lot of options to choose from here, I think.
I do. I think, we were talking off air, and I still don't know who I'm going to pick. So,
I'm going to ask you who you pick right off the bat. I'll go with mine first then. I got to go with Ernie Boschrab because I think, you hand a guy a situation where, like you mentioned, we thought Dwenger might be the 4th or 5th best team in the SAC coming in. You have the emotion of Coach Schwarzkopf now being on the sideline for the whole season with lymphoma. You're dealing with the emotions of that. The one thing that was kind of genius is that they brought him in. They didn't have to change any of the coordinators' positions.
Right.
Everything stayed the same. And he kind of maintained the course, which sounds like it's easy to do, but when you're dealing with 14 to 18-year-old individuals, to be able to be on the same page, and I'm not going to say nothing changed, but to be able to steer the ship in the right direction and do it the way that he did, all the way to a state championship, I got to tip my hat to the way Ernie Boschrab took over that program and what he did at Bishop Dwenger this year.
Yeah, he, at the beginning of the year, he said, I'm going to approach it more of a hands-off. I'm going to let the assistants do their thing. And to be honest, I looked at it, I was like, man, I just don't know if that's a good idea. But sure enough, it was. I mean, he knew just the right amount of buttons to push without really changing everything, and he just kind of stood back, and when he needed to be there and make decisions, he did. But he knew that was a competent coaching staff and kind of was more of a hands-off guy. And led that team a tremendous job. So you go Boschrab. I'll make a case for Larry Getz. I think a great job with Belmont. We talk about teams that came out of nowhere, and Belmont's always been that middle level NHC, now Northeast 8 team, and they went and answered every bell with the exception of the East Noble game. But every week we kind of looked, okay, now they're gonna trip up, and they didn't. They just kept doing it, and they proved it in the playoffs, going pretty far in the playoffs too. So. Larry Getz did a tremendous job of Belmont, but Boschrab and Getz, much like Snyder and Dwenger, I think, with the team of the year, really can't go wrong. And your 2 was Kurt Tippmann.
Yeah, I had Kurt as number 2.
And Kurt gets a raw deal kind of. We were talking like he's like the Nick Saban in terms of we expect Snyder to be good every year, so it's tough to honor the coach every year. But when you have so many players that can make plays that are good football players, you have to manage them, and Snyder does a good job of grounding those kids from the beginning when they first start their high school career with Snyder, and it's team oriented all the way through to keep those kids focused and all that stuff with all these college aspirations for all of them and stuff to keep them grounded and keep them focused. I mean, tremendous job and undervalued, I think.
I totally agree with that as far as Coach Tippmann goes, and you take a look at when you interview the kids throughout the whole season, but mostly in the playoffs where you notice it, you kept hearing the phrase, do your job, do your job, do your job. That was really imprinted on them by Coach Tippmann and the entire coaching staff. And like you said, a lot of those guys are looking on the next level eventually, trying to get their name out there, but everybody bought into the team aspect. Good leaders on the team, and that comes down from the coaching, I think, to a certain degree. I got to give it to Kurt Tippmann. Like you mentioned, he's one of those guys where, like Nick Saban, you just overlook him because you expect them to win.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You know what a mark of a good, well-coached team? Boring quotes from their players.
Yeah.
It's if you get cliche answers, they're well coached because it's all about team. Blah blah. I mean that's how you know it. When we talk to Notre Dame players and it's just the same stuff, and it's like they're well coached. They're coached, and that's the mark of a good team, in my opinion, is they give boring answers.
Yeah, and I had Larry Getz third. I also had Michael Mosier from Adams Central, and of course Sherwood Haydock as possible honorable mention if you want to go that route. But I thought Larry Getz did a fantastic job, as did Coach Mosier too.
Yeah, Coach Haydock, a great job what he's done with that program at Woodland, and I think it's just getting started out in Woodburn. I think they're lined up for a tremendous run.